What makes someone beautiful? Is it symmetry, curves, flawless skin, or is it something else? Hi, I'm Lisa from Crown Tours. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can be notified anytime we post a new video. Why are we so obsessed with beauty and beauty standards? When I think about beauty, I'm always drawn to The Birth of Venus by Botticelli. When I first saw her, she was mesmerizing, but when I took a closer look, I remember feeling that something wasn't quite right. Venus, being the Roman goddess of beauty, looked very strange. Now, there is more to this painting that meets the eye, and it tells us so much more about how beauty has been idealized, and idealized differently across time. Venus, in cultural mythology, was born from the sea foam, fully formed after the god Uranus was castrated by his son Cronus. His severed genitals fell into the ocean, and from the mixture of sea and sky, Venus emerged, stepping onto the surface of the water on a giant shell carried by the waves. She was beauty itself, springing into existence without a mother, the embodiment of life, desire, and sensuality. It's easy to think of beauty as just physical, but it's much more than that. It's cultural, symbolic, and even political at times. In the ancient world, beauty was divine. Venus represented this concept of beauty as a gift from the gods, a force of nature that could influence human lives. She wasn't just a pretty face. She was powerful. In Greek and Roman cultures, beauty symbolized harmony, balance, and fertility. The Greeks, during the Hellenistic period, constantly sought perfection. The ideal body, the ideal face, which could be seen in their sculptures. Whether it was a man or a woman, god or animal, there would be no imperfections, no distinct marks of age on the bodies. The Greeks idealized the human form, emphasizing perfect proportions and symmetry. The Romans were the complete opposite. They favored authenticity for their statues. Roman sculptures tended to be more realistic, often including lifelike individual characteristics and even flaws. They were still idealized to some extent, but the Roman statues showed a wider range of body types and ages, showing wrinkles and imperfections. The Birth of Venus is one of those works that almost everyone is familiar with, the goddess of love and beauty as she stands on that giant shell being blown towards the shore by the wind gods. At her side is the Hora of Spring, a figure offering her a robe to cover her nakedness. But strangely enough, her proportions are unusual. Her neck is too long, her shoulders too narrow, and her stance, teetering on the edge of the shell, looks almost impossible. Well, it is impossible, actually. It reminds me of unrealistic fashion advertisements and how artists still today are creating perfect bodies and muses, perhaps not painting with brushes and pigments, but with apps and computers. Still, the outcome is the same. Artists creating ideals that aren't steeped in reality, but rather are a construction based on their own personal perceptions of beauty. So, wasn't Venus the god of beauty? Was she really the ideal? During the Renaissance, yes. The Renaissance was a time when Europe was rediscovering the art and philosophy of the ancient Greeks and Romans. It was a period obsessed with balance, harmony, and the beauty of the human form. Botticelli, working in Florence in the late 1400s, was deeply influenced by these classical ideals, but he wasn't simply copying them. His Venus is softer, more ethereal, and somehow more fragile than the strong sculpted goddesses of ancient Greece. In fact, Botticelli's decision to model Venus's face after his muse, Simonetta Vespucci, adds a deeply personal layer to the work. Simonetta was widely admired in Florence for her beauty and was believed to have been Botticelli's muse in several of his paintings. Her features, with delicate lines and a serene expression, fit the Renaissance ideals of perfect harmony and balance. This transforms the painting into something romantic by combining Botticelli's personal admiration with the celebration of classical mythology. He wasn't trying to paint a woman as she truly appeared. He was painting an ideal, something beyond human, a goddess who stood between the natural and the divine. It's funny how, over the years, I've seen the idea of beauty change so many times. What my mother valued, what I once tried to be, and what my daughter and granddaughter now confront, beauty has always been a moving target, changing with the times, shaped by the world we live in. After Venus came so many other ideals, each one reflecting its time. In the 1950s, women like Marilyn Monroe set the standard. Full-figured, glamorous, the hourglass ideal. I remember Twiggy. Her waif-like figure was everywhere. She was so different from the voluptuous stars of my mother's generation. Suddenly, thin was in. Then came the natural, athletic, toned models of the 70s and 80s. Beauty was a moving target, and it felt impossible to keep up. Now, my granddaughter is growing up in a world I hardly recognize. She's already exposed at such a young age to images of beauty that look nothing like what I was exposed to as a child. Social media is filled with perfect faces, often photoshopped, sculpted bodies, and unattainable standards. Venus has always been a symbol, an idea of beauty that reflects more than just a pretty face. Whether it's the divine beauty of ancient times, the grace and intellect of the Renaissance, or the constantly evolving illusory standards of today, beauty is always about more than what we see in the mirror. For me, beauty was something I always thought I had to chase. For my daughter, it's something she's learned to embrace in her own way. And for my granddaughter, I hope it will be something she'll be able to define for herself, free from the pressures of comparison or unattainable perfection.